All right, folks, it's week 3 preview time here on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. What's up, everybody? I'm Dan Vespris. Today, we will be going through the starts, the sits, and most importantly, the schedule. What's on tap for a cockamamie week 3 in the association? You can find me on social at Dan Vespris, mostly Twitter. The network feed is Old Man Squad on Twitter. We also have an Instagram account that's Old Man Squad Fantasy that has short videos over there. So if that's your jam, that's where you can find them. The purpose of these shows, these weekly preview shows, is to get you ready for the week ahead, meaning kind of a reset on understanding who's healthy, who's not, especially for weekly leaguers, which, again, it's kind of a silly format to not be able to rotate out someone who might be hurt or in someone who might say no longer be hurt, but I do know that a fair number of you guys still play that. And then again, most importantly, and that's what we'll segue to in the second larger chunk of the show, is going through the schedule day by day, starting as early as Sunday, the day before the week begins. So if you wanted to try to backload week 2 and front load week 3, and then roll all the way into the following weekend and even the day after that, you can maximize how many games played you're getting with moves, stream time. And we'll also talk a little bit about how many injuries there are in the NBA right now as we're working our way through, because the number is extraordinarily high, and we've only just begun. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, basketball, the hockey, to entertainment and political props, it's all BetOnline. Head there today. Head to BetOnline today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering, BetOnline. The game starts here. Let's begin with a look through the players that are injured in the NBA. And I figured, and I know this is sort of like a bit of a low-tech way of doing it, and you guys are going to see silly team names on your screen of a league that I'm in. In fact, let's go to a different one. Let's go to this one. I think the team names in this one are going to be a little bit easier to stomach. There's some goofball names in the other leagues. So, we're going to go through the preseason rank. We'll go through basically about the top 150. Anybody that's on the shelf for any sort of meaningful reason, we'll discuss them, and we'll jump over the folks that are not super relevant. Like this Giannis game time call, he's probable, so we're not too worried about that. Joel Embiid, it sounds like he's getting closer, but I don't see how you can put him in a lineup until you know he's playing for sure, and we don't yet. Steph Curry, however, and I'm going to try to throw these players up on the screen as we're talking about them. Steph Curry is a tougher choice, and you guys can actually see it if you're watching on YouTube, which, again, reminder to like if you're watching on YouTube, rate if you're listening after the fact, subscribe everywhere. And you can see the news here. There was a Steph update on Friday that came through that, yes, he's not playing this weekend, but he might be ready as early as Monday, which is an overflow day. So I think you're probably going to get an okay week out of Steph this coming week. It's a weird one, mind you, but it's a 4-game week for the Warriors. And the nice thing is if Steph doesn't play on Monday, you will have enough guys to cover that. I feel quite confident. Why is Dan so confident? Well, all 30 teams play on Monday. And we'll get to that, the wonky scheduling stuff coming up. So Steph, I think, is an in guy for me. Scotty Barnes is out for a couple of weeks, so he remains on your bench. And let's keep trucking. Lauri Markkanen just got ruled out for the weekend game. It's back spasms, and they cropped up for him on the 29th of October, which is 4 or 5 days ago. I think we probably see Markkanen at some point next week, but when, I don't know. Utah has a game Monday, Thursday, Saturday. They have a really good schedule because of the light days. But again, if you're in a weekly format, that sort of doesn't really matter as much because you've made your calls on Monday. And not that Utah has a great schedule or anything. That's only a 3-gamer, but 2 of their 3 games are on days when you're not in overflow mode. So there is a value in that. Still, he could very easily miss all of next week. they're not going to rush him back. So I'd be inclined to probably leave Markkanen on the bench and kind of play it safe. Paul George, same thing. Leave him on your bench. DeJounte Murray, he's not back anytime soon. Desmond Bane is listed as week to week. Paolo Banchero is out for probably 4 to 6 weeks or more, so that's a no. Emmanuel Quickley is another one we should probably pause on. He was listed as doubtful for the Raptors game on Saturday. We're recording this shortly before that game begins, so you guys can probably see from the screen what actual day and time it is. But for those that are listening, the Saturday games haven't happened yet, and for Quickley, being listed as doubtful is not a great sign leading up to a game. Like, odds are he's not going to play in it. This is a Lakers-Kings back-to-back. They go Monday, obviously everybody does. Then they go Wednesday, and then they're off until Saturday, Sunday, back-to-back. I'm hoping that you can get 2 games out of Quickley next week. Is 2 enough, is the question, and I'm inclined to say no, because even when he gets back in there, I don't know exactly what that first game back is going to look like, because he didn't ever really have a season opener to this point. I mean, I think he's going to be good. I feel pretty confident he's a top 60 guy when all the dust settles, but I feel like you kind of have to leave him on your bench until you get to see him actually play. Jaylen Brown is sitting out one of the Celtics games here. This could very well be just a opponent situation. They have a road in Charlotte. So if anybody is a little bit dinged up, they're going to get him a breather. And that appears to be Jaylen Brown. So I would start him next week. I think he'll be back by then, and I'm not super worried about it. Kawhi Leonard, obviously, is a guy you leave on your bench. Bradley Beal, like, in and out and in. He's like the squeeze box song at this point. Missed a game, played a game, missed a game. He's likely to play in this game on Saturday. Again, you can read it on your screen. It's weird to have him there and back again, but to that end, like, the fact that he's so close to playing every night is, I think, a good enough reason to play him for next week. They got 4 games. Yeah, they're high traffic days, but it's a 4-game week for a good basketball player, so I would turn him loose. Brandon Miller, sounds like he might even play on Saturday. And again, we'll have more information on this by the time you're making your roster decisions on Monday for this coming week. But I'd be very surprised if you didn't get a pretty damn full week out of Miller. At least 3 of those 4 games, maybe all 4 of them. So he's a guy that I would fire up. Jamal Murray hit the concussion protocol on Friday night. He was already ruled out for their back-to-back, and typically guys are not out of that for 4 or 5 days at bare minimum. I think I would probably leave Jamal Murray on the bench because it feels like a best-case scenario is 2 games in week 3 for Jamal, and it could be worse. Now, if you get 3, yeah, you'll feel a little bit annoyed that you didn't drop him in there. But look, he hasn't been that great to start the year anyway. His shot hasn't been dropping. It's not going to be the end of the world if he's out of the lineup, or if he's in the lineup and you don't get to play him. You'll be okay. Again, when these guys play on high traffic days, sometimes you might even just have another dude you could slot in there. And if it's a weekly league, you just don't want to risk taking the 0. Zeros will kill you. Hartenstein is a bench. The latest on Devin Vassell is that he's getting a little bit closer. But, we don't exactly know how close. I guess he's doing some stuff with the G League team. I don't think he's gotten into any kind of games there. Spurs do have a Thursday-Saturday situation coming up, but that would be a ballsy play to drop Vassell into your lineup when he didn't even really get a preseason under his belt. So I would say you have to bench him for at least 1 more week. And then once you see him play, then you can maybe make the call from there. Trey Murphy stays on your bench. What happened here? Did we go backwards? There's Vassell a second time? What did I do? Did I hit a weird button? Devin Vassell is listed as ranked 74th. And then there he is again on Yahoo. Oh, there we go. The screen was not updating properly. Bogdan Bogdanovic, he's out for a while, so no. Mark Williams, no update, so no. In fact, what's the latest? He's still in individual workouts, so he's not super close yet. CJ McCollum is an odd one, but he was ruled out for 2 weeks with adductor soreness, so he stays on your bench. Herb Jones is out for a couple of weeks, so he stays on your bench. Kyle Kuzma is dealing with a groin thing. I would leave him on my bench as well. Let's keep going. I mean, look at the number of injuries here. Why is it doing a weird thing? Stop it. We already saw Herb. Why is it doing this? There it says Herbert 106. What is going on? Did Yahoo just like put out an update in the middle of us doing this show? There he is at 97. Are you guys seeing the same thing? My brain is exploding. Maybe you guys are seeing the right thing on YouTube, but it's not updating properly for me, and that's making a very difficult show. Chris Middleton, no huge update there. Still coming back from the ankle stuff, so he's out. Kristaps Porzingis is still out for a very long time. Taylor Hendricks out for the year. Asar Thompson still hasn't been cleared. Now we're getting into the you're really not playing these guys, even if they were good kind of, or even if they were healthy kind of thing. Marcus Smart is out for a couple of weeks, so he stays on your bench. Aaron Nesmith. Wendell Carter Jr. is an interesting one. He's dealing with knee tendinopathy, or a tendonitis, rather, not tendinopathy. Scratch that first one. And hopefully we get an idea of what's going on with him from their game on Sunday. But the thing is, he's not good enough to risk it. Like, if Wendell Carter Jr. doesn't play on Sunday, luckily, like everybody, he goes on Monday. So some of these guys where you're caught in between, if he's ruled out on Monday, I think you bench him. And if he's ruled in on Monday, you probably play him. So at least you can kind of make a last-second call there. Karis LeVert, I don't really care that much regardless. Nembhard is out. Brogdon is out. Shaden Sharp is out. Now, we're into the deep dregs. And again, this is weird. What's YouTube showing? Yeah, see, look, YouTube's showing the wrong thing too. It's showing a lot of these guys in like two different spots at the same time. This is so strange. I have to change pages twice. Jordan Clarkson is out a week, so bench him. Dyson Daniels is one that I wish we could get back in there. It's a hip strain. I mean, you're not going to play him until you see him play. So leave it. Nope. Olynyk, no. Strus, obviously, no. Melton, no. He wasn't doing enough to warrant you guys playing him anyway. I'm going to hit the button twice now and just make sure that the numbers are coming up right. And unfortunately, and you can see this is my team here, Fish Sandwich on your screen. It's a ladies' man reference. I mean, it's a food, but for me, it's a ladies' man reference. If DeAndre Hunter could pop his head up, I would start him in a heartbeat. But until he does, that's a no. And we just got a report as we were going on air that Nick Richards is expected to miss more than one game. I don't know what that means, but he's a guy I don't think you could start based on that information either. But it does kind of segue into all of the injury replacement names that we talked about on the show that dropped on Friday morning. Go back to that show. The burger board is laden with burgers right now. Like, there's so freaking many of them. It's absurd. And we'll continue to try to put those out on Twitter day by day. The burger board, for those uninitiated, is a list of injury replacement players. So guys that step into a big role because of some kind of injury. Let's move over and take a look at the calendar. This, of course, is our free. This is a streaming calendar you guys all have access to. The link is in the show description. It's got other tabs. You can see them at the bottom. In-season rank movement. We're going to start tracking how guys bounce from week to week. It's got all the stuff from the preseason, the pros versus Joe's ADP we did with Alex Rickleen, the buckets, basically my rank list that I put out before the season started, all of the ADP and pre-ranks that Yahoo was working with. That's all in there. All of this stuff is totally free in one gigantic Google Sheet, and I'm just going to keep adding to it from now until the end of time is the general goal here. So anyway, you guys can use this. You don't have to refer back to the video that is showing on your screen. You can just pull it up yourself when you want to rebuild what I'm doing. But basically, here is a look at the week ahead. This is a week with 3 very high traffic days, a 4th day that's fairly high traffic, a 0, that's election day on Tuesday, and 2 super quality days, a 3-gamer on Thursday and a 4-gamer on Saturday. It is an every other situation, which also means that a ton of teams have 4 games this week, and many of them go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. Which means that if you're looking for an advantage this week, it's not that easy to find. It's easier to find teams with a disadvantage. So let's start there. Brooklyn is one. They've got 3 days off, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, right in the middle of the week. That's an area where, look, Tuesday, you're not going to get any extra games. But Wednesday, Thursday, there are teams that have back-to-backs in there. There are plenty of teams that have 3 games from Wednesday to the end of the week, where in that instance, you'd be adding 1 over your Brooklyn player. If you don't like the Brooklyn player, that's another reason to look for adjustments, because it's possible that the Brooklyn player you have going on Friday, that's a 13 gamer, you could sacrifice that game and not actually lose a game played this week. Now, the Saturday one, you probably do. But you might look for somebody that's going Wednesday, because with 12 games, you might be overloaded. You might not. That one's going to sit a little bit closer to the borderline. You might be looking for a team that goes Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, or something like that. Chicago is a good example of a team like that, where you might be able to switch from Brooklyn to Chicago and actually gain 2 games played, even if the team differential is only 1, because you might be overloaded on Friday, but not on Wednesday. Similarly, Sunday's an 11 gamer, so you're less likely to be overloaded there. So Brooklyn's got that 3-day off situation. It's not as useful as usual because nobody plays on Tuesday. So it's really like a 2-day off thing after the everybody rests day. And the other unfortunate schedule next week is New Orleans. And I would think, actually looking deeper at it, the Pelicans might have the worst schedule. Washington, by the way, has a terrible schedule as well. And I forgot to color code that. So let's do that live while you guys are watching. There you go. Now Washington is color coded with a bad schedule as well. The Wizards go Monday. They're off for 3 days, just like Brooklyn, but then they go Friday, Sunday. So they don't even have the Saturday low traffic day. Now, Sunday with 11 games, 11 out of 15 teams, that's 22 out of 30, or 11 out of 15 games, 22 out of 30 teams playing. 11 out of 15 percentages-wise is actually less than an overload. Like for a 13-player roster, which is what Yahoo public prize leagues are, if you did 11/15ths of 13, you'd be under 10. So odds are you're at in that 9 to 10 range. And if you're 10, then yeah, you're at capacity. But if even one guy on your team is a game time call and sits it out, then you're back to underneath again. 12 is where you start to expect to have 10 guys going. 11 is like a coin flip. 12 is more likely. Obviously more likely, but you guys know what I mean. So the Wizards have the same kind of thing where you might be able to find a team going on a lower traffic day that has 3 games Wednesday through Sunday, and maybe you actually gain 2, even though the team only gains 1. New Orleans, to me, might be the easiest one to work with of all of these teams with a bad schedule, because the Pelicans go Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's it. Those are the 3 highest traffic days of the week. So Monday obviously is a wash because everybody goes on Monday. Basically, you just want to treat this coming week like it's Wednesday through Sunday. So that segues into our next discussion, which we're not quite at yet, because for the Pelicans, you're obviously not going to make any move before Thursday. But from Thursday through Sunday, the Pellies only have 1 game. There are a handful of teams, slightly less than a handful, that have 3 games over that span. And if you're looking at the teams that have 3 games Thursday through Sunday, Milwaukee, you can see it on the screen, Milwaukee, Minnesota, and Portland are the 3. Those teams are also kicking off a 5-7 run on that Thursday. So not only do they go Thursday, Friday, Sunday, which guarantees you an extra game, probably 2, over the Pelican that you're holding on to, which unfortunately means that great streamers like Jordan Hawkins and Jose Alvarado right now might be guys you could consider tossing by the wayside, especially when you consider the fact that the Raptors are the only team in the NBA that goes Saturday, Sunday, and don't have a terrific schedule before that. So yeah, I mean, you could pivot, you could hold on to your Pelican through their game on Friday if you wanted to, and then switch to a Raptor, but the Raptors go into a really bad schedule the following week, so that would be a team you end up kind of punting on after just 2 days. And you guys know, I hate making fantasy additions, using a roster move for just 2 days. Yes, you'd be gaining 2 games, but it's 2 games, 2 days, and then you got to use another move again. It severely limits the amount that you can stream when you have to do the same roster slot over and over and over again. That's why I would prefer to go to these teams that have 5 games in 7 nights, which, by the way, Week 4, and again, YouTubers, you guys can see it on the screen. Friends that are listening on Apple or Spotify, I love you guys the most because every one of you hearing an advertisement pays me like 8 times more than what YouTube pays. But also, I would say that these weekly preview shows, it's probably easier to get the actual data internalized if you can see the diagram that we're working with. So I would strongly recommend pulling up the Google Sheet while we're talking about it, and you can kind of roll right along, or you could just go watch this one particular show on YouTube and then come back to the traditional channel some other time. But that's why I like Portland. That's why I like who are the other ones, Milwaukee and Minnesota, because once you use that move on Thursday for these teams, you don't have to do another move until next Thursday, which, by the way, is a 1-gamer. So you might not need to use the move on that next Thursday either, because like Minnesota, for instance, they play Friday, Sunday of next week. Like if you ended up picking up a Timberwolf, you could hold them all the way through Sunday of next week. You end up getting 7 games over 11 days, which isn't bad. But also, I mean, if it's not a player you like that much, get rid of him after 7. You still have that option because 5 and 7 is your best long streaming pocket you can find in the NBA. And we have 3 teams that started at the same time. That is Thursday of this coming week. What would I do? That's like, I think probably what you guys want to know the most, and how I'm trying to plot my own course for this coming week. What am I going to do for my head-to-head teams getting ready for week 3? Well, first of all, the nice thing is you can pretty much do whatever you want to finish week 2. If you have any roster moves left over, you might as well just use them on Sunday, because Sunday is a 3-gamer, and every single team that plays on Sunday plays again on Monday, because everybody plays on Monday. Because Tuesday's an NBA holiday, they wanted to get every single team in there the day before, and then everybody can go do their voting stuff the next day. So every single team, all 6 of them that go on Sunday, go again on Monday. That makes it really easy to decide what you want to do with any remaining streamable weekly moves in head-to-head on Sunday, which is maybe when you guys are listening to the show, some of you might be listening to it on Monday. If you are listening to this show on Sunday or Monday and you're totally fine, your week is done, you've used all 4 of your moves for week 2, or your team is getting blown out, or you're doing a great job and you're winning on week 2 and you don't feel like you need to use a move, don't do anything. Don't do anything Monday or Tuesday. That's nuts. Treat week 3 like it's a Wednesday through Sunday week. Some of you, if you got a little bit lucky, some of you can treat week 3 like it's a 4-day week. Meaning if you're at 10, if you're maxed out on Wednesday, and some of you will be, because like 12 out of 15 teams playing is 80% of the NBA, 80% of 13. Well, let's see, 1.3 times 8. So that's 8 plus 2.4. That's 10.4. So the expectation in a 12-game night, which Wednesday, November the 6th is next week, is that more teams than not will be overloaded. There will be some that won't. And then there will be some that have like 14 guys going, because that's just how probability works. But more than half of you out there will have 10 or more guys going. So then you've really got a great thing going, because then your week starts on Thursday. Let's do, what did I just do? Let's do 2 hypotheticals here before we wrap up this week 3 preview. Hypothetical number 1 is that your Wednesday is full. So this is the perfect scenario. Oh my God, my kid playing with a squeaky toy, and I don't think I'm going to be able to edit that out. Let's say Wednesday is full, and you can start your week by just thinking about what you want to do Thursday through Sunday. There really aren't that many ways for you to dominate the games played battle unless you're like going over and over and over in the same roster slot. Thursday, We talked about the 3 teams that go 5 times in 7 nights, Thursday through Sunday. That was Milwaukee, Minnesota, and Portland. Those 3 teams I would be picking up someone from on Thursday. Unquestionably. Because now you got 4 moves left. You might as well use at least 2 of them on Thursday. 20 minutes of quiet. We won't have it. And then you have choices. So let's say you do 2 moves on Thursday in this scenario. You can, and as we talked about, only Toronto has a back-to-back over the weekend. You could use one of them on Saturday to try to squeeze out 1 extra game that week, or you could let it ride. If you are insistent upon using all 4 roster moves next week, I don't know that Toronto's a great idea because, again, they segue into a bad schedule the following week. I don't want to end week 3 with a bunch of Toronto Raptors on my club because then you got to use up a bunch of moves right at the beginning of week 4. That's a recipe for disaster. You want to be able to have a little bit of wiggle room. I think in a perfect world, and you guys know this, I try to stream about half the number of roster slots as weekly moves I have. So if I have 4 weekly moves, I try to stream 2 roster slots. Because of how heavily loaded up this coming week is, you can actually make that 3 roster slots. Because a lot of the reason that you only want to stream 2 slots when you're long streaming with 4 moves is because you have to stretch them out over 7 days. If you're only using 4 moves over 4 days, you can probably stream 3 or 4 roster slots. You could get all Milwaukee, Minnesota, and Portland streamers. You could do 3 of them, and you still wouldn't use all 4 of your moves. Or you could switch one of those 3 streamers to a Raptor and then use 1 move first thing next week, and then don't do anything else until like Thursday of next week or Friday. So that's what I'm doing, I think, if my Wednesday is full. If my Wednesday is not full, then the world is your oyster because a ton of teams go 3 times Wednesday through the end of the week. Whereas, again, only the 3 teams we mentioned before go 3 times Thursday through the end of the next week. In fact, it's easier to look at the opposite and say who doesn't go 3 times between Wednesday and Sunday. And that's Brooklyn. They have that back-to-back we talked about before. Their schedule is not particularly juicy over that stretch. Scrolling. New Orleans, we talked about with a bad schedule. Who was the other bad schedule team? Utah has kind of a good quality game schedule, but total games not as good. And then Washington was the other one with the not so great schedule that you'd potentially want to avoid Wednesday through Sunday of next week. But that basically leaves like 25-ish of the 30 teams you could go to on Wednesday. So at that point, I would probably look at using not all 4 of my roster moves on the same day. Think about a team like San Antonio that goes Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. There's one other team. The Clippers go Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and the Cavaliers. Oh, and the Hawks. There were more. And Chicago. Wow, I was prepping for this show, and I was like, oh, there's like 3 teams that go Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. But I whiffed on the reverse of that. Oopsies, folks. Still, Chicago is one of the best ones because they have the Thursday, Saturday. Those are the low traffic days, so there's no threat of it sort of impeding on guys you already have playing. And San Antonio. So if you need to make a move on Wednesday, Chicago, San Antonio are the best choices there because they go Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, which is a fairly high traffic day, and then 2 very low, but it dodges the really big Friday, which is a more traditional overloaded day. The flip guys of that are like Atlanta, which is Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. That's 3 games, but 2 of them are higher traffic days. Not as great. You might not be able to use all 3 of those games. So I probably wouldn't go that way. Frankly, I'd rather go Wednesday, something Sunday. If you can avoid Friday, that's the way you want to move. So Chicago, San Antonio, those are the 2 teams I'm looking at to use probably 2 of my moves on Wednesday. And then I would probably look at using 2 moves again on Sunday for those situations to get off of Chicago, to get off of San Antonio, not because their schedules aren't good. In fact, the Spurs have a pretty good schedule next week, but you'll max out by getting an extra game on Sunday. And the Kings are a great spot to go to on Sunday because that's when they start a 5 games in 7-day stretch. Washington also has a back-to-back Sunday, Monday that rolls into a pretty good schedule next week. Oklahoma City, pretty good schedule next week that includes a Sunday, Monday. Same thing with Houston. So there are 4 or 5 choices you could go to on Sunday after using 2 of your moves on Wednesday. If you're curious about what players to be thinking about for these teams, don't worry about it right now because a ton is going to change between today and Wednesday or Thursday of next week. And if you want to know the guys to pick up, that takes us back over to the Twitter side of things. At Dan Vespers, follow on social media because I put out streaming boards daily with great injury replacement guys. And we can talk about, you could probably ask, and I'll try to figure out a better way to do it. But, basically, if you're looking at these long streamers, you're going to Yahoo or whatever, and you go to the player page, and screw it. Let's just do this together right now. We'll do it live on screen. Here's the Yahoo player page. These are the free agents in one of the leagues that I'm in. Make sure that you can actually see the names on your screen. Instead of sorting by all available players, just scroll down. They've got NBA teams as one of the choices, and we'll go to Chicago, and then we click on filter, and now you can see who's available. Ayo Dosunmu, Patrick Williams. These are great guys to stream for 3 games and 4 nights. Not because they've been good so far this year. In fact, Ayo's shooting 36% and Patrick Williams is shooting 29%. But hey, maybe you catch him on an upswing day. 27 minutes for Ayo, 28 minutes for Patrick Williams. You do that for 3 games, and the shooting is just a little bit better. You're talking about 9, 10, 11 points, 5 to 6 rebounds for Dosunmu, 4 assists for Williams, 2. Patrick Williams, these guys both can get a steal. They both can find their way to a block. They both can find their way to a 3-pointer. You get 3 of those over 4 nights. That's a pretty big fantasy line. That's 30 to 40 points. That's 15 to 20 rebounds. For Dosunmu, that's over 10 assists. 2 to 3 steals, 2 to 4 steals, 1 to 2 blocks. That's a lot to get from a random goober off the waiver wire over a 4-day span. And it's typically a lot more than you're going to get from some guy that you hope only had 2 games. That's why you try to maximize games played, because all you need in there, what if Patrick Williams, one of those 3 games was a big one? And I mean, what if he went for 16 and 8 with 2 steals, a block, and 2 3-pointers? That changes your week. So this is the way to do it. You guys don't need me to point out these names. You can do this over and over again. All right, who's good for San Antonio? Sort by team, scroll down to San Antonio, hit the filter button. Okay, obviously Wemby and Chris Paul are rostered. Jeremy Sohan is rostered. Great. Julian Champagnie. I don't really want Harrison Barnes, but 3 games and 4 nights wouldn't be the end of the world. Keldon Johnson, 3 games and 4 nights. He's terrible, but give me 3 games and he'll be okay. This is how you do it. You don't need me to give you the names. You can sort. Just figure it out. Find these guys. The names that I want to give you are the injury replacement dudes, the guys that can really blow up and have themselves a night, but that's not as much about maximizing games played as it is maximizing production for an individual day. And that's a little bit more Roto Games Cap friendly, I suppose, but it does translate a bit on the head-to-head side. If you have roster moves to burn, like perhaps if you used 3 of your moves on Thursday and had 1 to burn on Sunday, someone might pop up where you're like, yeah, this son of a gun might get me, 20 and 10 for 1 night, and I'm going to have to drop it tomorrow, but I had a roster move to burn, and that's the way you look at that in kind of the same way as on the Roto side. You're just trying to squeeze out 1 really big per game production day. And that'll do it for our Week 3 preview. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. Please remember to hit that like button before you exit the window. Hit that subscribe button before you exit the app if you're listening, the window if you're watching. And if you do have a moment, Apple, Spotify listeners, please, a 5-star review with a message goes a long, long, long way. The growth of all of this stuff continues to amaze and astound. We are knocking on the doorstep of 5,000 subs already, and we are not even into the first week, through the first week of November. of a channel that we launched in the dead of the off season. This is awesome. You are all amazing. I will see you on social media at Dan Besbris when we'll talk through more of this stuff, because there's only so much we can do, 2 days in advance of the actual start of the week. We'll handle everything else as it comes. Lots of really fun shows coming up. I've got some new ideas that have been hitting me in the shower. Not that you want to think about that, but that's when I do my best thinking. So I think, therefore, I hope you listen. I'm Dan for Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I'll see you guys when I see you. Later for now.